What is Islam? How does it provide you meaning in life?
Respected guests, I greet you with the warmest Islamic greetings of peace. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. My name is Hamza Andreas Tzortzis and I am from the UK, from London. I arrived earlier and I'm really happy being here once again. I remember I was here last year or a few years ago. I had a very warm, nice intellectual discussion on consciousness with Professor Peter Simons, who is a professor at Trinity. So I love Ireland, and I think you guys say we like a good crack, right? So do I. So, what is Islam? I don't claim to represent Islam or Muslims. I want to make that very clear. But what I'm going to say is what I truly believe is what you would call a mainstream orthodox intellectual understanding of our tradition. So Islam essentially means the peaceful submission to Allah, to God. What does Allah mean? Allah means basically the deity according to the Arabic linguists. It has no gender and it has no plural. And we believe Allah, God is uniquely one and He's transcendent. We have a very unique view on the transcendent nature of the divine. And we know Him through His Prophet, Muhammad, upon be peace, and through revelation of the Quran. Hence, we have many names and attributes of God. Some of these include Al-Wudud, the loving, which means the loving that is given. It comes from the Arabic word wud, which means a giving type of love. We believe Allah is Ar-Rahman, which means the intensely merciful. We believe Allah is As-Salam, He is the source of peace. We believe Allah is Al-Khaliq, the creator. There are many names and attributes for us to understand God from a spiritual and theological perspective. And Islam's message, therefore, is to worship God. Now, worship in Islam is not just attending an institution once a day. Worship is based on once a week or once a month. Worship is a comprehensive concept, which basically means that you love God, you know God, you obey Him, and you single out all acts of worship to Him alone. And this is quite important because we could apply these concepts on non-religious folk as well. What do you love the most? What do you want to know the most, right? Who do you obey? Your ego, society, peer pressure, the scientists, the philosophers, the politicians. And you have acts of worship, which is like acts of gratitude. So this concept is a non-concept whether you think it's religious or not. We worship something from this definition. Look at Justin Bieber with his believers, right? They want to get to know him. They read the magazines. They want to love him more. They listen to all his music. They buy his stuff. It's like an act of worship. It's showing gratitude. This is worship, people. And that's why if you understand the Islamic concept of worship, we all have worship. I mean, I even believe humanists worship, right?
No.
Well, from this definition, definitely do. Especially the British humanists I talk to. Like they have this kind of glorification of the postmodern philosophers, which the new age prophets of humanism. The point I'm trying to say is we all have this aspect of wanting to love something, wanting to know something, having acts of gratitude. So this concept of worship is quite important to understand. And Islam says that our goal is not to worship the ego or some random philosopher or the limited human mind or societal pressure or to be part of the kind of the sheep, right, that form the social norm. If you study social psychology, you see that we're just basically a bunch of sheep, many of us, unfortunately. If you study psychology, you see the famous Zimbabwe study, the prison study, the famous Milgram study. We all have a sense of obedience to the social norm. That's how social norms are developed. You have informational social influence and normative social influence. It's our need to belong, our need to be certain, and if we don't have certainty individually, we go to society to hold something stronger. We have a sense of belonging. If we don't belong, we belong to the society and adopt what they do. This is like a form of worship, right? So Islam is saying free yourself, truly liberate yourself by not worshipping your ego, not worshipping society, not worshipping Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? Or Tom, Dick, and Abdullah, but rather worship the one that created you, and He knows you better than you know yourself by definition. He is Al-Hakim, another one of His names, the wise. He has the totality of wisdom and knowledge. We just have the particulars. He is the one who knows the picture. We just have the pixel. So worship Him because He loves you more than your mother does, according to our tradition. So that's what Islam is essentially. That's the main message of Islam. And I believe this message is very rational. I would argue other messages, for me, in my limited perspective, what you call irrational. For me, especially atheism, I think that's an irrational position. It takes more faith to be an atheist, in my view, than a theist. Because you have to believe that consciousness came from non-conscious physical processes, that rationality came from cold, blind, non-rational processes, that something came from nothing, that being came from non-being. I mean, if that's not the definition of faith, then what is people? So I really believe God is grounded in rationality. And I believe Islam has no contradiction with science. Science gives you the processes, the how. Islam gives you the metaphysics. Science can't deal with metaphysics. This is well known. I'm doing a postgrad in philosophy, studying philosophy of science. There's never really been a contradiction in the Islamic traditional sense between science and revelation and Islam. They coexist, because one tells you the how, the other one tells you the why. The problem is when scientists want to become metaphysicians, right? And there's a famous story, it's a bit of a joke, I learned this from Sheikh Hamza Andreas Tzortzis on YouTube. And the biologists come up to them and say, we didn't need you, don't believe anymore. I said, oh, how come? How do you not believe in me anymore? Oh, because we could explain the world without you. Oh, so how did the world come about? Oh, well, first we start with some cosmic dust, and then God says, hold on a second, get your own dust. Yeah? So, biologists and scientists, not all of them, because the newest academic ones, they don't get into metaphysics, right? They don't. But the ones who are journalists and popularized like Richard Dawkins, they get into the metaphysics, which is really not scientific at all. Allow the metaphysics to the theologians and philosophers, allow the scientists to the science. We accept the science and we love the science. So in terms of morality, just here, and we believe that morality comes from God. That doesn't mean there's a blind obedience here. There's a symbiosis, if you like, or relationship between the intellect and the naql and the text. We have to find out what the command is, what is the context of the command, right? Once we understand the command, then we submit, which is the most rational thing to do, because God is the authority, God not by definition. And we could rely on a very strong philosophy to prove that. And what's very interesting is we also believe in human morals. I believe Muslims should be the greatest humanists, right? Because we believe what the Prophet taught us, upon him be peace. Love for an-nas, what you love for yourself. Love for humanity, what you love for yourself. If you don't, you won't truly believe. And this is a tradition that you find in Al-Bukhari, right? There's other traditions, love for your brother, what you love for yourself. So we have a very compassionate tradition. The Prophet taught us to be compassionate. When there is compassion in something, it elevates it. When you remove compassion, it degrades it. So we believe Islam is supposed to be compassionate. And Islam is comprehensive as well. It gives us answers to many different problems. For example, it solves the problem of war. I know it sounds a bit ironic to say that because what's happening around the world, but I don't want to be apologetic on the issue. We predated the Geneva Convention, frankly. The Prophet Muhammad, upon his peace, if you see the rules of war, we can't even harm trees. You can't kill monks, can't kill innocent people. When Europe was still drinking each other's blood from their own skulls, we have an amazing ethical tradition. And there's nothing to be egocentric about because the Muslim world is in a crisis at the moment. And we need to readopt our values. We have a huge crisis. I think that's the main problem of secularization. If you impose secular values in the Muslim world, this is exactly what's going to happen. So we have a unique tradition. We believe in the oneness of God, we love human beings, and we have a comprehensive ethical framework that if we study it properly, I think it would elevate everybody. And just to end on this, Muslims must revive their traditional neighborliness. And neighbor means the Muslim and the non-Muslim. A neighbor could be anybody. And we don't discriminate whether they're homosexual or not, or whether they're religious or not. That's the Islamic ethic of neighborliness, whether you like it or not. That's Islam. And Islam teaches us to have a lot of rights for our neighbors, a lot of duties for our neighbors. And I give you one story. There's one companion of the Prophet Muhammad, upon his peace. He was feeding the anthill next to his house breadcrumbs. And his students or the people were asking, why are you doing this? And he said, because on the day of judgment, I don't want to be accountable for not giving my neighbors their rights. That included the ants. So look at the psychology of the Muslims at that time. They internalized the tradition properly. And I think one of our crises today is that we haven't internalized our tradition. It's the crisis of the Muslim ummah, the Muslim community. We have these really nice nuanced values, but we haven't internalized them as a tradition. I think that's one of our goals. and we should be humble in this. We have a great message, but I think we don't have very good marketing at the moment. So we need to fix the marketing, and hopefully today will be part of that course. We're going to learn from the professor, learn from Ryan, learn from another professor, right? So, I'm still the student here, so I might come across a bit maybe arrogant, and I might come across as, maybe unlearned. I want to learn from my fellow teachers. And that's it. As the Prophet said, upon him be peace, the cure to ignorance is to ask and learn. So I want to probably do more asking than learning, but we'll see.
Just on a follow up on that, you speak of tradition and bringing up the tradition. So do you think it's that tradition? Do you think that that's the part that gives you meaning, the purpose in life? Do you think that's the part of Islam that gives you meaning and purpose?
Of course, yeah, that's why I'm here. I mean, Islam answers the greatest existential question, which is who are you, whose are you, for whom are you, and maybe for some of us on a Friday, where are you? Yeah. So it answers all the greatest questions. And science can't answer that. This is not a science question. Any sincere academic, we studied this at University of London. I can't answer that. That's philosophy, that's metaphysics, that's outside of the scientific domain. So what we have to do is use different domains to answer fundamental questions in life, the existential questions. So, it's important.
Alright, actually just going back to Mr. Whiteside. So, without religion, how do you find meaning and purpose in life? You have no tradition to bring back, how do you find meaning and purpose in life?
I walk every morning. I live near the sea. I live down there. Every morning I walk down to the sea and I look at it, and I'm just so delighted to live in such a beautiful place. I'm in awe of beauty. I'm in awe of this world that we have, of the friends that I have. I see great beauty, great love, great meaning in all of that. Maybe I don't articulate it very well. I sometimes think that religion sort of pins things on God because it's a convenient way of explaining things. But to me, I don't feel I need that. I feel that I can live a very fulfilled and happy life without any God. And it just, as I grew up, I'm feeling a little bit in awe of these professors, and you're only a student, but you're a bit of an academic. I was never an academic. I did my leaving certificate, I got involved in business, and that was my story until I left business and became a humanist. But I just never, ever could understand what I saw as something so extraordinary and literally unbelievable as the concept of a God. Certainly not a creator God. I mean, we now, I know we don't have explanations for everything. There are some, you talk about going right back to cosmic dust and all of that. There is, you go right back and there is a mystery. But I don't see why we need to call that mystery God and create a religion around it.
We're not doing that.
Well, what do you do?
Well, that's a bit of a straw man. It's a misrepresentation of the position. Theists, even Christians, I would argue, academic theists, Muslim and non-Muslim, would accept any of the science. The question here is the metaphysical question, not the scientific one. I mean, even the scientific one, there are 17 models to explain the same data. The data is undetermined. So the data is giving us like 17 different models. There's a lot of speculation. So allow the speculation to the scientists. We're just saying being cannot come from non-being. That is a rational concept. To deny that is it denies all forms of logic.
But what's that got to do with God?
Well, because how does being come from non-being?
Nobody knows, and it's a mystery, and you call it, you bring God into it, we just don't.
It's a mystery to you, doesn't mean it's a mystery to everybody else.
Okay, well I prefer to have a mystery than to have God and the church. And who knows, someday maybe we'll get an answer to it.
Well, yeah.
Well, the other thing that just strikes me as being extraordinary is how, in the Christian Bible, we have the book of Genesis, and we have the story of Adam and Eve. Now, do we all accept that that was not how it was? I mean, Sam, where are you on that? Do you believe it?
I'll come back to that in the next
Okay.
We're coming back to that. We do our whole question of that. We'll just move on to the last piece of Dr. Kumar. So yeah, he's the president of the Vedic Hindu Cultural Center in Ireland, and he's just going to give a short introduction to Hinduism.
Thanks very much, Viren, for organizing these meetings and respected speakers and my friends. First of all, I give my introduction. My name is Dr. Hemant Kumar. I'm a GP here in Dublin, and at present, I'm the president of the Vedic Hindu Cultural Center of Ireland. We are in the process of making a cultural center. At the moment, we don't have a specific space or place at the moment, but we hope that we'll be delivered very soon. We are in the process of that. I was born in India, supposed to be a very religious place, Haridwar. I studied my medical and postgraduate medical, being in a very spiritual place known as Kashi, the Banaras, as far as Hinduism is concerned. And then on ended up in Dublin at the moment around the way of living. So when I hear from my speakers in Christian or Atheism and from Islamic faith, I don't remember the name at the moment except Hamza, who's near me. If you go to the crux of all of them, I think 90-95% they all are talking the same. And I will be talking the same as well. I will be no different, but I will be talking about it. Only thing is, somebody will give a name of humanism, somebody will give a name of Christianity, somebody will give a name of Islam, and somebody will be giving a name of Hindu Dharma or Hinduism. But 95-97% things are nearly the same. There is not much difference, so I won't be talking anything out of the box. But because the people in Ireland, especially the population here, they're more Catholic here, and they know much about Islam as well, and it's very less known about the Hinduism in this part of the world, although 1 in every 6 person on the planet is Hindu. Various names of Hindu religion. It is also known as Vedic Dharma, Vedic religion, because it is based on the teaching of Vedas. That's why it is known as Vedic Dharma. It is known as Sanatan Dharma because teaching based on the eternal natural laws governing life, society, universe. Eternal means they were true before, they are true now, and they'll be true in the future as well. So they are eternal all the time. And then nobody knows from where this name Hindu came into existence. Then once you don't know what it is, then there are some theories behind it. So one theory is the people who were living east of Hindu Kush mountains were known as Hindus, like the people who live west of Caucasus mountains is known as Caucasians. Other theory is the people who were living between Himalayas and Indus. He came from Himalayas, Indus came from the ocean. So the people who were living between that area were known as Hindus. So it became Vedic Hindu Sanatan Dharma as such. And in short, it became a Hindu Dharma. Dharma is a Sanskrit word, so it is a little different between Dharma and religion. Dharma means the individual's natural selfless conduct and responsibility towards self, parents, family, society, community, environment, and humanity. There is no equivalent English translation for this ancient word. The closest word is religion. And in Gita, what it says is the conduct which sustains, protects, harmonizes all human beings, including family, society, nation, nature, and the cosmos, is known as dharma. Aim of the life is to achieve moksha, the nirvana, to be free from the cycle of birth and rebirth, and to be free from desires. The message here is that everyone has the potential to achieve this if one wants, through the industriousness, which is known as Purusharth. The individual has the liberty to choose the path of progress, to make one's own destiny by the righteous efforts. There are two fundamental gratifying wishes of everyone. One is the pleasure, which is in Sanskrit known as Kam, and second is the wealth, which is the earth, which is in Sanskrit known as earth. And Kam is achievable by wealth. The sequence is dharma, earth, calm, and moksha. So the goal of life in one single sentence, in one single statement is, by leading a virtuous life, one may acquire wealth righteously, one may enjoy and fulfill the desires righteously, and ultimately one masters all these desires and liberates oneself from the clutches of all desires. This liberation is called moksha or nirvana. Underneath the personality is an infinite conscious center, which is the Brahma or superconscious or the Godhead or the soul. And to know the God, one needs to explore the infinite conscious matter which is buried under the mass of illusion, of ignorance, selfishness, and ego. To know the actual nature of self-realization is accomplishable in this life through the path of yoga. Yoga means the union of super soul with the soul is known as yoga. And there are 4 yogic paths: Jnana Yoga, which is the path of pure knowledge; Bhakti Yoga, the path of pure devotion; the Karma Yoga, the path of selfless work and action; and the Raj Yoga, which is the path of meditation. And if you see, all of us are talking about the same things. Phases of life, as per the Hindu term or the Vedic term, is the Brahmacharya life. There is a student life which is 1 to 25 years, to prepare, to educate, to acquire skills, to earn living, and then the rest, 25 to 50 years, which is the prosperity and propagation, marriage, children, and birth. Vanprastha is 50 to 75, which is retirement planning, and then sannyas is 75 onwards, to serve humanity selflessly for betterment of the universe. Sage Manu classified the society into 4 sections. They are not by birth, but by aptitude, inclinations, and actions. The Brahmin, the intellectual class, engaged in devotional service of God; the governing class to save the humanity; the commercial sector of the society; and the skilled and unskilled worker class. The primary scripture of Hindu Dharma is Vedas. Vedas were revealed at the beginning of the creation creation to the yogis who were called rishis, who were in a deep state of meditation. And when we are in a deep state of meditation, there is no difference between the soul and super soul, so you can feel the super soul. That knowledge was passed on by oral recitation. The 4 Vedas are Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, and Atharva Veda. In total, they have 20,349 mantras. Mantras, this word came from Sanskrit word mantrana, that whenever you read these Sanskrit mantras, you will get more meaning out of them. So there were secondary scriptures were there to explain all these Vedic hymns, which is known as Upavedas, Upanishads, Sabdarshans, Purans, and epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata and Gita. I'll just give you a very small example of creation as per the Vedic rishis calculated. It's really mind-boggling. You don't have to remember it, but I'm just giving you a small example what this Vedic rishis did in calculations. The sun is 5 billion years old, Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Current civilization is 1.9 billion years old, and one cycle of creation consists of 14 manvantras. Current manvantara is 7. Each manvantara has 71 cycles of Chaturyugas, which is 4 yugas: Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar, and Kali Yuga. Present creation is 28th cycle of Chaturyuga, and it has completed about 5,115 years on 18th of March 2016 as per the Vedic calculations.
Sorry, sir, I'm just going to have to cut you off there. We're going to have to reduce the time each speaker gets to speak because you're running short.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have to move over to the next question, if that's fine, I hope. Well, okay, we got this up anyway, so I'll just bring it up. Science, yeah. Science and religion. Well, I like to hear Professor speak, obviously. Can science and religion never work in tandem? You know, is it?
I'm a scientist, do research. As somebody once says, do you do research on animals? And I said, oh no, I only do research on humans. I mean, I've done lots of clinical trials in